Welcome to the Rehumanization Station. I'm your collaborator, Christopher Jones, aka Dr. X, and this podcast is an extension to my Flippin' and Vibin' brand, where Vibers seek to transform narratives in society, education, sport, and a variety of other sectors. This is our collaborative practice series where we have a Get Comfortable Viber named Danielle with us today. Dani, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
I'm sorry, do you go by Dani? Because I saw that's what,
Yeah.
is Dani okay?
Yeah, a lot of people call me Dani, yeah.
Okay, we'll go with Dani, okay. Thank you for being here today. So Dani was born in the mid-'80s in County Durham, where she has lived her whole life. Half of her family came from a small pit town, and the other half came from Jamaica as part of the Windrush generation. Dani was raised in a working-class, single-parent family. Her family was white, and so was the community around her. Dani's mom has always provided a crucial counter-narrative to what she was able to achieve as a Black girl. Again, so it's going to be a very powerful episode in terms of different types of identities and being from both sides, right? And trying to understand how Dani navigated that, right, as a Black woman. Yes. Dani currently works as a therapeutic practitioner for children's services for a local authority. They predominantly work with children in their care or care experienced children, working directly and systematically to better meet the needs of the child or young person. They also train carers and colleagues in a therapeutic parental model. Her and Lisa Austin, one of her friends and colleagues, represents DBC regionally as anti-racist champions. They've been delivering short training sessions and presentations to their colleagues and leaders, and recently has established a training that offers training towards, I would say, external stakeholders, right? And I had a view of the training, and it's amazing. I'll say this again, it is amazing. A lot of the work in the training made me kind of think about my PhD and some of the concepts that y'all highlighted and new concepts that I never heard of. So it was amazing to see that.
Really?
Yes. Or even if I did hear it, there's a different concept for it. There's a different word for it, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So for instance, there's different types of microaggressions. I know y'all talked about, there was a few, when you talked about color blindness, you talked about homogenizing compliments and proximity defense. So so for instance, proximity defense is, for instance, it said, I can't be racist. My friend or cousin is Black or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Part of that is like this invalidation, micro invalidation, not validating someone's experiences as well. So there's different types of microaggressions. Like I said, that proximity defense, I love those terms.
Yeah, we talked about kind of saying I can't be racist because my cousin's neighbor is, and I get on with them and all that. We kind of said, like, it's like saying I can't be sexist, I've got a mom.
Yeah,
like, it doesn't make sense.
Hey, that's how. See, this is what we do today. So right, so that's flipping it. That is definitely flipping that narrative, right? And that's what we're going to talk about today. So, there, as anti-racist champions, what they do is there's a collective and collaborative moment that she feels is privileged to be a part of, right? And today we're going to talk a lot about anti-racist work, and I'm excited for today's episode because obviously people who listen to me know that this is some of the work that I do, and it's always good to kind of hear and spotlight people who are doing this groundwork in the community. So it's going to be really, really insightful episode for everyone. So now this is the part of the show where we just vibe and allow our listeners to get an idea of you, who you are, your background and your personal interests, right? So Dani, what's your story? Tell us a bit about yourself, your birthplace, family, your friends.
Yeah, so this is me. This is where I've lived my whole life. And in obviously very, very white surroundings. So I was, I stood out. And so obviously it was my normal, but reflectively, I was having a very parallel experience to everyone else around me. I was experiencing the world different as someone who's Black, and I think the difference of being raised with and around people who look like you is that you know, outside of your family, because to my family I was just Danielle, but um, when there's people who look like you around you, you are to them people you are first and foremost. You know, you're Danny, you know, your little girl. When you grow up in a white majority area, you are first and foremost black, and all of the different connotations that come with that.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, that wasn't an experience that I shared with anyone. Um, so it's really given me a lot of insight into, you know, even like white psyche and narratives around race, and kind of I've had to continually explore where I sit with it, and you know, because it's not a subject I'm able to have been able to escape from. So that's why I think, you know, we like together with Linda Austin, who I do the anti-racist work with. I think that's our differences of experiences and the way they cross over makes kind of what we're doing really powerful.
So, where? So my question is around. We just specifically talked earlier about your identity and how you identify as being black, right?
Yes.
Can you, as someone who was born, like I said, we talked about how different people identify as a different way of
Hmm.
identifying themselves, especially when it comes to race, ethnicity.
Hmm.
Can you give us an idea? So your father is black, your mom's white,
Yes.
correct? Right.
Yes.
Okay. What makes you identify as black specifically?
That the way I look, and my experience has not been white.
Mm-hmm.
People don't see me and see white. Um, so it best defines my experience. But also, I think when I was younger, to define myself as um, half or mixed or dual or those other things, it felt like I was doing it out of it to make a point of it was to kind of it was about safety. It was about kind of that proximity to whiteness, which was like more acceptable. But now I feel like comfortable and strong and proud of being black. So it just feels like closest to my experiences of the world, and it just feels like the most comfortable term
Mm-hmm.
for me.
Right. Thank you for sharing that. And when I came here, right? That's why we were talking about me being I'm African American. So if you were that's why geographical location is kind of can I would say influence how we identify ourselves. Because if you were in America, just by looking at you, I would I don't like we don't like to generalize, but I would just I'm going to assume that majority of African Americans would view you as black,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
When I came here, just like me, but when I came here, certain people thought I was mixed,
Yes.
right? I know some of my skin complexion does come from slavery. I have ancestors who are white slave masters, or I have Native American in me, but I'm predominantly black,
Yes.
right? Black African. So I just thought, yeah, you saying that, I guess it just makes me think about the geographical location and how that does influence how we identify ourselves, right? Um,
Hmm.
and how, in terms of your identity and how you've navigated the world, or specifically here in the Northeast, right? Were there people around you that were supportive in terms of what you were going through? Was there any other, I'll say, students um, from a similar background to you when you were growing up, or do you feel like it was it mainly just you?
Yeah, it was very like I was always the only black person in the room kind of thing.
Okay.
And so yeah, but I mean my family, particularly like my mum and my grandma, were very protective and defensive over me. And my mum in particular, like obviously through we're talking about systemic racism, right? So through all these institutes, whether it's kind of the stuff you're taking in through media or education or anything like that, you're getting all these narratives all the time, which are um, unflattering to
Mm.
black people, anyone who's not of a certain demographic. Um, and she, when I said she provided an important counter narrative, she was always just like told told me to expect more and not and to stand up for myself and to
Mm.
stand up for others, and that I can always remember. I was speaking to Linda about it not long ago, where she just earned minimum wage. She was a hairdresser, and she was doing my hair. She was like plaiting my hair, and she was like, "Oh, what do you want to be when you're old?" Must have been about 5, and I said, "Oh, like I want to be like you," and she was like, "No." She's like, "Absolutely not. You're too bright." And she talked to me about university, and it just kind of planted a seed of, oh, maybe I could, even though I don't see that anywhere. Through school, I didn't even know that black people could write a good book, let alone anything else. Um, but it kind of really, it clearly planted a seed to make
That's
me
good.
think,
That's amazing. So your mother planted a seed for you. That makes me like to ask the question, how do you know how your mother navigated that experience? Was she treated a certain way? Um,
yes,
mhm.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It, I know it was challenging for her, very
Okay.
challenging.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you
A
for
lot of a
sharing.
lot of a lot of hostility.
Oh, okay. From the wider local community or
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay. What
The my mum and my grandma actually told me a funny story the other day. So I was in my pushchair, and it was in a garden centre, and a lot of people were staring at me and looking at me, and they were used to this. So my grandma started having a go at them and saying, "What are you looking at?" And they were like,
mm,
"Oh, she's just wiped all the plants off the shelf there." Like
mm.
it was actually nothing to do with
Okay.
the
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate you sharing some of your story. But in terms of your story, I know it like you mentioned, it can be quite challenging growing up in that environment. But however, can you think of anything or share anything that brings you peace, love, and happiness during that time frame, and then now as well?
Um, I had like family. I always had close friendships. Do you know, actually, interestingly, you being from America, I think a lot of American media and music
Mm.
were like, I could at least see myself,
Oh,
you
right.
know, in
Hmm.
spaces, and like celebrate a part of me that was, I didn't really get anywhere else. So
Hmm.
there was that. Um, and I can always just remember, like even just like black people on TV would tend to be American, or the music like Prince and Destiny's Child and Salt and Pepper and Whitney and Tupac and
Okay.
Buster, and like all
Hmm.
that growing up, like it was just like, oh, that was really validating, I think. Um, and yeah, same now. Like I'm very like family orientated. particularly around my husband and kids, that's just where I want to be when I finish work. I have to have alone time sometimes. Doing therapy and even that anti-racist work can be like, oh, I need to just recharge. I love learning. I love reading. I love music. I love theatre. I love art.
Okay. What do you like to read?
Ah, there's just so much stuff.
Hmm.
Like if I just want to like escape, I'll read like a fantasy or a like author like George Jameson or something. No, not that. Joe Abercrombie.
Okay.
But like I've been reading loads about anti-racist practice.
Hmm.
But not just like your conventional texts. Like I have obviously read, like Natives by a Colour and
Mm.
Renier Lodge's Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race.
Right.
And I've just finished a great book called It's Not About the Burqa. And just kind of diversifying, like committing to this meant like, practicing what I preach. And for me, and it's just been just so rich in learning. I've just told you about a book that I read by Natalie Morris, which is a mixed other. Um, but yeah, just lots of different stuff. I also love books written from the perspective of a child or a young person,
Okay.
because I just think they're just so insightful and just beautiful to read, particularly when there's just alternative views of the world. They're really powerful as well. And I've been reading those through intersectional lenses. So it's like
Okay.
it's so fun. I think learning about anti-racist practice, people think, oh, you have to pick up a textbook or you have to, you can just there's so many different ways you can diversify what you kind of putting into your eyes and your ears and um that can just be like fun and entertaining and like enrich the way you think, the perspectives that you consider.
Right. And so you talked about children.
Yeah,
You have two.
three.
Oh, three
Yeah,
kids. Okay.
yeah,
Um, how are they navigating their experiences with? Because I'm assuming you said you're still in County Durham,
yeah.
correct? How are you as a mother towards them, considering that they're pretty much in a similar type of racial climate, if that makes sense?
Hmm. So interestingly, um, my oldest is 19, and
Hmm.
he is. I'm not sure how I feel about the term, but he's white passing,
Okay.
and he
Yeah.
like he experiences racism in a different way to what I have. Um, and he'll find himself in conversations that wouldn't happen around me. He'll
Right.
can find
Hmm.
himself in friendships where he's like, whoa, what? That I wouldn't be in, and um, can still be hurt through the proximity to that.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, and then having to come to terms with with everything that's been
Hmm.
happening, with everything that's happening. But he's so switched on. They're all really switched on. We always have really open discussions about things. We share experiences. We talk about things. So um, I think he'll do well. He'll do well. I'm really proud. I'm really proud of
Oh,
them.
that's good.
I'm really
That's
proud of them.
good.
Like my two sons, like they're yeah, they
And
they've
that,
got they've got good minds, good hearts.
what you said makes me think like what is a different term we can use besides white passing then?
I don't
'Cause I
know.
know the term, but I never actually sat down and thought about what could be a different term for that.
I don't know why it even makes me uncomfortable.
I
But it's
mean,
just there's
word,
something
because
about it that I'm like,
words have emotional powers, don't they? So I
mm-hmm.
white passing. That's something to think about.
Mm.
Something you can definitely have in your training. Yeah, but that's definitely
There's a
I've
lot
never
to
thought
get to
about it.
before we get there.
Yes, that's true too. That could be part two, three or something. But
That'll
okay.
be part 4 or 5, or maybe.
Yeah, but that I will. That's something to think. That makes me think about that. But that's amazing that you're able to kind of have those conversations with your children, because it's important, isn't it? Because climate is important, and like I say, emotions are important, and what you just identify shows that our experiences are not homogenous, right? They're different,
Absolutely.
they're diverse. Um, we all have to walk in different ways. Even if you're in a completely different school, it could be a similar type of makeup, but there could be different types of people. There could be different teachers. That could be a bit more progressive, or some could be more conservative. So it's important to understand that everyone has their own unique experience. We
Mm-hmm.
share certain experiences, but it's still important to kind of understand those individuals as well, individual experiences as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate you sharing that with me. Now, you talked a bit about what you like to do, read, and
Mm-hmm.
your influential. You say your mother's probably the most influential person in your life, you would say? Or is there
Yeah.
anybody else that's been influential to you in your life?
Um, I mean, lately I've met
Mm.
loads of influential people through um our collaborative practice. I mean, first and foremost is Linda Austin, who I do this, like the whole anti-racist practice with. She's incredible. She's really inspiring and supportive, and sometimes, I'm a person that can cross over them invisible lines and push, and she's so supportive. She's so supportive of that. And she's a source of safety at work as well.
Oh, that's important.
And the broader community of tapping into this whole movement, this anti-racist movement that's happening regionally. I've met so many inspiring characters, so many great partnerships. And I was speaking before about, having Professor Jason Adair as a keynote speaker, but every like literally, there's so many just wonderful, inspiring, incredible people. We have a close partnership with Ray, who did our anti-racist
Yeah,
champion.
Ray is
Yeah,
amazing.
Ray Dye.
Our anti-racist
Um,
survivor.
he came along our training, because which was funny, because he was we were he trained us. He trained us with
Right.
all Tony Abbott, and so it was a bit like having your lecturer there. But yeah, just that support and mentors, like it's just been incredible. So it's vastly expanded recently, which is
Yeah.
great.
Right. Ray's been sending me some stuff. I'm trying to be involved. I want to be involved more. I know there's this Northeast Anti-Racist Coalition.
Oh,
I need
Christopher,
to.
what
Okay.
an incredible space that
Okay.
is! Like, what an incredible movement.
Okay. So I'm definitely gonna get into that. But everything you said is important, isn't it? Because there's this train the trainer.
Hmm.
Even for me, like I said, when I go through these slides, and this is part of this whole rehumanization process, because me having the doctor title does not make me. I don't like sometimes expert. I get it, but we're constantly learning, aren't we? Like there's,
Mm.
you know
Yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean? There's so many different things we can learn from different types of people. Like academia is can be somewhat different than community work.
Hmm.
Does that make sense? In the
Hmm.
work that you do, so it's important to kind of draw on everybody's work in order to come together, right? I think that's really important, how you just highlighted that.
Hmm.
Um, okay, and now, what about some of the most challenging moments for you? I know we talked about this before, but some of the most challenging moments for you,
Hmm.
as in as a therapeutic practitioner doing anti-racist work,
Hmm.
and how did you navigate them?
Hmm. Well, there's the ongoing, you know, systemic racism, which you always come up against, and different, like in terms of intersectionality, different things where you're always having to challenge, like on behalf of yourself, your colleagues, and importantly, like the communities that we serve, the children, the families that we serve, and but that's part of it, and I think I'm fortified from that. Like, I think in terms of like overt racism, the things that we think of as racism, I've definitely experienced that. Like, experienced that, like verbal abuse, assault, and stuff like that. But the systemic stuff, I find more challenging in a way, like, because it's difficult to even name it, or for people to consider it as credible. Particularly coming from a black mouth, it's like, you know, it's undermined, or it's, you know, refuted, and stuff like that. And I think that's a real sticking point sometimes, because there is such a defensiveness or a discomfort in even discussing it, that it can be a really tough barrier to overcome. So there's that, and in terms of challenging, I think with our training and our approach, weirdly, the challenge is making it inclusive and accessible, because we want everyone to be able to feel part of it, because everyone is part of it.
Right.
And you want to do that, create the comfort and safety of that environment without diluting the message,
Yes.
without taking anything away from it, without undermining it, you know, so you're not sacrificing one to the other. So that's a balance. That's a balance that needs to be negotiated, you know, throughout, and we're really mindful of that.
That man, with that, like you just that's when you talk about diluting and finding that balance is, I hear you on that, and that's going to get us to the next part. So we're going to talk a bit. We're going to flip it now, okay? We're going to talk a bit more about some of the work that you do in those challenging moments, right? We'll get more in depth in terms of what specific words mean, right? So I appreciate you sharing some of your story with us, and now we're going to get a bit more into like how you flip the script to traditional narratives within it, right? I've had a chance to do an overview of some of your work as a therapeutic practitioner who does anti-racist work. Much of your work is around anti-racism and getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, like you just mentioned, right? So our viable audience and us too, let's attempt to flip the content's racist script, shall we? So what are your perceptions of, I would say, traditional or normative narratives in the work that you do? But before we get into that, right, you talked about, sorry, I didn't want to cut, sorry, I know you're thinking, sorry. But before we get into that, right, you talked about systemic racism, but then you also talked about, I would say, the interpersonal racism. We kind of conflate the two, but they are different at times, right? Could you kind of share with our audience a bit about the differences between the two? So if you kind of can highlight, because you talked about systemic racism as a particular challenge, can you highlight some mechanisms or examples of what that is, if that's okay?
Yeah, so what we try to do is kind of reconstruct what people think of as racism. And we have people examine what racism means to them. And then we look at how this shows up in our systems, how this shows up in our education systems with, you know, global majority children being, you know, up to 5 times more likely to be excluded, or being, you know, 9 times more likely to be tasered by the police, or under suspicion, more likely to be in custody, in social care, adults in mental health more likely to be detained under the Mental Health Act, and children, up to 40% more likely to be taken into care. This shows up massively. People literally more likely to die in the healthcare system just because they're not white. This isn't, the lads on the street rioting. This isn't them. It's us. It's us. It's all of us that will be in that room professionally. We play a part in that. So it's kind of getting us, each and every one of us, to take accountability for that and to really look at and examine that within ourselves and support each other collectively. So one of our approaches is we kind of argue, what we see overtly is a manifestation, byproduct of systemic racism. The people that we see kind of rioting or hostile or aggressive, they're going off the same narratives. It's just manifesting in a different way because of a different set of circumstances. So yeah, it's tougher. It's kind of, because it's insidious, so it's tougher to challenge, but I think creating that space where we can be safe in exploring it and we can take accountability without it being blaming, forward thinking is how we can tackle that.
It's amazing. I love when you just mentioned how it's like the interpersonal is like as a byproduct of the systemic racism, right? And when we talk about everything you just spoken about, that's something different is what the statistics you show, right? It's very similar to an African American perspective, right? How often do you get, we're talking about this racist script, especially specifically in England, how often do you get like backlash in terms of race not being an issue in England? It's an American thing. Or do you get that often? Do you not get it often? But how are those experiences?
I think through growing up, the only discussions about race were about America. And it was like,
I hear that,
and me
yes.
as like a black girl was like, are you joking?
Right. Right.
Can we talk a bit more locally? But yeah, it's more comfortable. It's that avoidance and that's what we're key in trying to overcome. Like, let's stop looking at them or pointing fingers or saying it's these bad people and thinking we're above it. Let's look at us. What are we doing as a system? Like, you know what I mean? If we can't even talk about it between ourselves, how are we serving, our communities? How are we going to do that? And particularly within, therapeutic counselling, therapy. I trained for years, and so did so many other people that I worked with and alongside. No training on racial trauma. We talk about being, trauma informed. No one knows what generational racial trauma is, vicarious racial trauma, that is a systemic failure to understand the experiences of every other racial, ethnic, cultural demographic other than the main dominant one. And then we wonder why there's such disparity between the service that we offer. It's complex and it's nuanced, but we need to be exploring it together.
Whew, thank you for, yes, you've articulated that amazingly, by the way, as well. I'll just say this, and it's very, I don't know, it makes me feel, the word would be like, there's different emotions, but it's heartfelt and it's important, right? And when we talk about this racist script and how people are content with it, could you consider a turning point in your life, um, within the racial framing, the racial climate? What was a turning point in your life that made you think, this is what I want to do, this is why I want to do it, this is what I want to do moving forward?
I've always been passionate about social justice. Like, I think I mean, again, going back to like my upbringing, like I've always been told to like stand up for yourself, you stand up for other people. So, and then kind of seeing it and experiencing it and witnessing other people not being able to understand that. I don't think it, it's not it's not out of malice. It's a genuine, I don't get that. I don't see that. So I think that I've always kind of seemed or outspoken or but I'm just passionate, and I'll just kind of call things out, but I don't think that needs to be in I actually think it's counterproductive to do it in a kind of aggressive blaming way. It's always to educate, to promote understanding, to raise awareness of it. That's come with age. I think I was much more.
Okay, but I mean the whole outspoken thing. It shows that you're being brave and you're being compassionate and loving at the same time. You're being all three of those together, right? And I think that's really important. That's really powerful that you mentioned that, because at times when we do this work, right, there's certain people who we have to. There's certain times we may feel that some people should have the same type of justice values as we do. Sometimes I've been in rooms, I've been in trainings where some people do, the trainers do respond in certain ways where they feel like it's like, why? Or if you're at certain movements, people are like, well, why do they feel this way? Why do it's, and a lot of this is like a lot of the work that I do, and it sounds like what you're doing is it's us to get an idea of our own story, why we have these prejudices, why do we follow this content racist script, right? And now that you've kind of shared a bit about who you are, why you do the work you do, what exactly do you do? So we talked about some of these traditional narratives. How is your work specifically flipping the script to those narratives, would you say?
I think, within our organisation, and particularly within the wider regional movement, we're really about wanting to tear the script up and rewrite it with all those missing voices included within it.
Oh, I love that. Keep going.
Yeah, so it's like actually those it's rebuilding, it's deconstructing and rebuilding, which is how we came up with Breach.
Oh, yes, we could talk about Reach right now if you want to. That was so cold. Hold on. Yeah, we could talk about that if you want to. So now.
Well, that's where it was through these conversations where we were kind of, Linda and I, through lots of research and conversations that we were having, where we kind of whittled what anti-racist practice was in terms of the attributes and approach that's necessary to make this. And we were thinking, we whittled it down to these 6 kind of main characteristics that really felt like a robust approach. And I just took the first letters, and I'm not good at words for some reason. I read a lot, but I'm not good at words. I'm rubbish at Scrabble. But I sent them to my husband. I was like, "Can you make a word out of this?" And he sent straight back breach, and I was like, oh, "Isn't that perfect?" So I was like, because breach is, you know, to break through, to overcome, to penetrate something that's difficult to penetrate. But and I just thought, yeah, anti-racism is an active disruption. It's a challenge. It's a challenge to a system and acknowledgement of the prejudice and discrimination in it. And so I was like, that is perfect. So you're gonna have to put me right if I get these wrong, because I haven't got them in front of me. But B is bravery, and because it can take courage to be the only one in the room kind of speaking about this thing, offering this narrative. And it takes courage, because sometimes you have to challenge leaders, sometimes you have to challenge, you know, your colleagues, your people that you care about, your family. R is to take responsibility, but also respect, mutual respect for everyone. E is empathy, and I think that's just huge. It's something that we really want to elevate, and that's why, not to jump ahead, but in terms of your rehumanisation approach, that's kind of why it is, of like actually seeing us all as equal as humans. Is for accountability, really kind of looking at, you know, where we're at, the part we play in it, and how we are going to overcome it. C is for commitment. This is not something that you can just tap in and out of. It's a general, consistent approach. And H is humility, and that's kind of the cultural humility you need, and the humility you need to go, no, I need to learn more. I need to keep learning more. I need to stay on my game for this, because within these systems, we're there to serve our community. And I think it's just as important for white people within the community as it is everyone else.
Yes, I hear you. Man, you got them all though. You got them all right. Man, listen, when I saw this, I was like, man, this is cold, because I really appreciate you sharing that, because this is everything you just mentioned is so vital and important when it comes to this work, isn't it? And a lot of that is, like you said, is rehumanizing, it's understanding. I think, which one of those do you think has been the most difficult in terms of your experiences with other people? So you have bravery, responsibility, empathy, accountability, commitment, and humility.
Most difficult for me, or more difficult for the people that I'm speaking?
For others that you're either training or talking to about?
Oh, that's tough. I think it's different for different people.
Mm-hmm.
I think some people can be pretty much there with all of them, but lack the courage, lack the bravery, because it's like, you know, it's hard to be the only one, or it's hard to kind of challenge and contend. Some people are just more hesitant, but we talk about different approaches to that. You can still be yourself within it. And sometimes you don't go in with a direct challenge. Sometimes you might, you know, write an email, or support the person who's, you know, being targeted, or whatever. it doesn't have to be the same approach. You can be you within it. Whereas some people, the very first stumbling block can be the accountability, because people want to disalign themselves from it. So I think everyone's at a different stage, so it's very individual where they're at, but hopefully we can get them thinking about all of those things.
Yeah, that's why I love this concept, this term, because it's like they intersect, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that. Uh, for me, man, what would I say? I feel similar to you. Yeah, it's everyone has their own experiences with certain things, but I think from a systemic perspective,
Mm-hmm.
that accountability, boy, I've been, oh, it's so hard, it's so difficult to hold people accountable, isn't it? But
But then that feeds into the humility and the
it
empathy
does.
and the
It does. But in terms of like, so if if you're in a certain position where you're the one signing off on policies, like let's say for instance Trump, who's holding him accountable?
Mm.
You know, it's those like when it comes to like a power and authority, right? But they all intersect, like you said. That's why I really love that. It's really cool. Thank you for
Mm.
sharing that. Now,
Mm-hmm.
where do you see yourself in your work leaving a lasting legacy, and positively impacting others, would you say?
Um, I don't know. I don't have a destination in mind. I just feel, particularly with the anti-racist practice, that I'm on the right path. And I'll just consider opportunities as they come. I definitely, through this process, have recognised that I do want to be in rooms where decisions are made, in rooms where a black female voice will probably never have been heard.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to make meaningful change. I don't quite know what that will look like. I'm just I'm present with it, and I'm doing what I can, and being part of something larger. Like that's exciting. So I'm open to things. There's no eventual thing that I'm like aiming for. I'm just like, this just feels right.
Right. So yeah, so basically it goes back to what you said. So but you want to be in the room where people are actually tearing up that script and rewriting a new one. You want to be
Yeah,
involved in,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I'd
I hear
love to
that.
be part of that.
Mm, powerful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Now, we're almost at the end. How are you feeling?
Good.
Good. Okay, good.
Mhm.
I like to tell people, I'm sorry if there's anything that I've said that's made you feel any type of way. Like I said, part of this discussion, how we do this, is about trying to understand each other, and how our Bible audience can understand you in the most authentic way possible.
Mhm.
So I do appreciate you sharing everything. Um,
I've
just
enjoyed it. I'm really enjoying it.
That's good. I'm happy to hear
Mhm.
that. I always try to tell people I want to have other people on, but I want to have you and Linda on from our
Oh,
free flow combo series, and then it's just an open
brilliant.
discussion. It'll be an open
You're on.
discussion. We can do that.
You're on. Yeah.
We can try to do that one in person as well. But if not, we can online still easy as well. So
Yeah.
we can do that. But I'm definitely gonna invite both y'all on one day.
Yeah.
All right, now we're at the concluding part of the show where you're gonna
Mhm.
offer us insight around rehumanization specifically.
Okay.
So if you could reflect on your journey thus far,
Mhm.
what do you know now that you wish you knew before?
Um, I wish I knew. I wish I was around more, like, of my people. And by my people, I don't just mean black people. I mean people that think like me, but also people who are, culturally and ethnically and like diverse in everywhere. I think I get a lot out of that now. And also I think I would have known earlier that the only person it's really important to be accepted and respected by is me.
Mm.
And then you come into your strength then, and you lose and attract the right people.
I love that. So accepting yourself, right? And this man, and I love, yes, I hear you on that part when it comes to being around people who are, and as I said, they don't have to be black. People don't have to be black. It's just being
No.
culturally competent, and
Oh,
open and curious,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And
I hear
people
that.
with shared values and
Hmm.
who are open, and you just learn so much. It's so rich. Those spaces are so rich.
I hear you on that one. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Now we are at the last question. Are you ready?
Not sure. It's a tough one.
You can never be ready until you go. Once you just go, it'll come out. You've been amazing so far. So today, so far, we've talked a lot around anti-racist work. We talked about some of your background, how you grew up in a predominantly white environment. We spoke about your mother being an influence, colleagues being an influence, and even your kids being an influence, and your son, and seeing how they've grown and becoming anti-racist themselves and being woke themselves, and that's something you're really proud of. And then we talked a bit about, the content script. How do we overcome that racist script? And a lot of it is around just tearing it up and creating a new one. That's kind of what Audre Lorde talks about as dismantling the system, right? And the master's tools will never be the master's tools will never build the master's house, right? So, all right. And then you talked about Breach, which was, oh man, that's amazing. You need to push that more. That's all I'm going to say. You should push that more when y'all get a chance.
I'll take your advice.
Because it's really good to me. But I'm just saying. But with all that being said, what does rehumanization mean to you?
I don't know how this looks as a general, but within our learning spaces, we first and foremost try to establish a sense of parity between us. So it doesn't matter what level of the organisation you're at or what your role is, like, we're here to learn as a collective. And I've never really got the deference thing. Like, there's people I highly respect. But that's because of what they've done rather than their status or title. And I think that when we foster that feeling of like we're the same and we're here to understand each other rather than to win, that's when we can have the real progressive discussions based on understanding. And I don't think that we can. I think there's different approaches, but for me, I don't think that we can promote and ask for more empathy without offering it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's it's that alignment of values with what we're saying and what we're doing. Yeah, and even to ask or to say to say you want to be heard without really listening. So I think even with the people or the views we find most abhorrent, we need to find a space where we can have that mutual understanding, and because otherwise we just get further and further apart. It's more and more polarizing. So I think establishing a parity and a safety, I don't know if that's rehumanizing, but I think it creates the conditions for us to identify each other with a sense of equity.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, so basically you're saying, trying to see if I can sum this over, trying to be in, there's a space we can all have a mutual understanding despite our different value system. It's about coming together, learning from each other, and moving forward in a way where we understand each other, but also that we understand that there is something that needs to be done in terms of humanizing, in terms of creating a just system. Right? Thank you. Thank you for sharing your definition. Thank you for being here today. I really appreciate it. It's been an amazing episode. How are you feeling now that we're done?
I feel really good. I feel really positive about it. So
okay, that's amazing. But I do
thank you for making it comfortable.
oh. Well, I appreciate that. I'm happy. Okay,
I don't know what to expect.
Okay, yeah, but I mean, it's really, like you said, it's just about, it's like what we talked about before. Sometimes it's, I don't want to say easier, but when you're honest and try your best to make, to love, to approach these situations with love, it's a better, you feel better. It could be, it could be easier for the self to communicate. Maybe depends on how people respond to you, but at least you have a center, you know where you're coming from, right? And I think that's the main powerful thing, and it's helpful to get it off your chest too. So I do appreciate you coming, being vulnerable, being brave, and sharing your story with us. It's absolutely amazing, powerful discussion. But now, do you have any like social media handles that people can follow you on? Anything? I know you're on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
LinkedIn. What's your last name is? How do you pronounce your last name? Farley. So
Farley,
Daniel Farley on LinkedIn. If you want to follow her. And I know something in terms of training. If you want to get to know Danny on training, get with her and Linda on the anti-racist training. It's amazing. I've gone through it. I'm telling you right now, get comfortable being uncomfortable, because this is where we're at right now. This is what we need to do. We should all feel this way, right? Even us too. I'm pretty sure you feel the same way. You want to be in a situation. I like to be in environments where I'm going to learn something. Absolutely. And if I hurt somebody based off of my own insecurities or my lack of knowledge, I want to be able to be approachable, right? And I'm assuming you do as well.
Absolutely. So we learn on that training as well. Like,
yes, exactly.
You know, we're there to learn as well. It's not about being kind of, competent. It's just about having the humility to go, no, this is a collective learning space. So with as many people as we can, partnership with, and it'll be just. I think one of our trainers, Ola, she said, we're more powerful together, and I'm like, that's it.
We are, definitely, and we'll leave it at that. Thank you again for coming. It's gonna be a great episode, but we'll definitely stay in contact. Yes, one love.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.